Hey everyone, Taylor here with Athlete Ally. I am joined today by Dr. Anna Baith, Athlete Ally's Vice President of Programming, and we're going to talk a bit about the recent decision from the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee that effectively bans trans women from competition. Dr. Baith, can you provide maybe just an overview of the decision and what this means?
Sure. Yeah, so on July 22nd, the USOPC issued a memo to the Team USA communities. And in that memo, they stated that no transgender woman would be able to compete on a women's US Olympic or Paralympic team. And subsequently, that trans men, non binary athletes, and athletes with intersex variations must compete on men's teams. Now, in the memo, USOPC President Gene Sykes referenced an executive order signed by Donald Trump in February of this year called Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. Sykes wrote that as a federally chartered organization, the USOPC has an obligation to comply with federal expectations. But most people consider this to be an anticipatory and speculative choice. Here's why. Executive orders are not the same as federal policies. Federal policies are laws that come from Congress. They go through all three branches of government to be verified by all administrative decision making, and then they're enforced as law. Executive orders are directives from the president, whoever's in office at the time, that tell federal agencies, of which the USOPC is not one, how to do their jobs. They don't create new laws and aren't enforceable as such. Basically, executive orders are meant to dictate culture. So some people are arguing that this is the USOPC caving to political pressure and bowing to Trump's culture war 5 months after the fact, after he put forward this EO, rather than standing up for athletes and the principles of fair and inclusive competition.
Yeah, and I think part of this decision requires national governing bodies to adopt policies that are in line with this new USOPC memo and reversal in policy. So there's almost this trickle down effect of exclusion, right? That we're probably going to see. Is that a fair thing to say based on what we can expect?
Absolutely. This is absolutely going to have a trickle down effect. Since USOPC teams are often the highest level of competition for athletes in various sports within the United States, most people want to compete for the US. Most institutions that govern sports across the country, especially those for younger athletes, choose to also comply with and follow the USOPC guidelines. So this is a case for sports at the NCAA level, high school level, and even club and youth sports. We saw something similar a couple of years ago when FINA, the international governing body for swimming, enacted an extremely restrictive policy. And their decision ultimately trickled all the way down to local clubs and kids just learning how to swim. So we really expect the same here with the USOPC. And ultimately, by bending to political pressure, the USOPC has set a precedent that'll shape the rules for every athlete in this country, including kids.
I think one of the things that you talked about and is somewhat troubling here is the reversal in policy doesn't come due to new research, to scientific data, to any evidence. It seems to be coming solely from the realm of political pressure. So you also have an amazing background, a PhD in research and academia and understanding the field. Is there any existing data, research, scientific evidence that you'd recommend people are aware of that helps better understand the topic of trans participation in sports that everyone should be primed and aware of?
Yeah, I think there are two key pieces that I wish every decision maker and every decision maker at the USOPC would take the time to sit with and read. The first one, number one, it's a major report from the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport, which pulls together the best available science on trans women in elite sports. And their report shows that biomedical studies find no consistent performance advantage for trans women athletes after a year of hormone therapy. Now, this is what the USOPC was using and what most governing bodies were using for many, many years. The report also reminds us that sport is shaped by things like discrimination, unequal resources, and a long history of policing certain bodies. So that's the first one. And it's publicly available. Just Google CCES trans women athletes. You can find all of the data. Number two, the second piece I would recommend folks look at is the International Olympic Committee's framework on fairness and inclusion. The IOC's framework is actually what the USOPC has followed throughout its history until this decision was just made. And the IOC explicitly states, after 2 years of consultation with leading experts around the world, that no athlete should be excluded for being trans, and that rules need to be based in human rights and grounded in evidence, not blanket bans or arbitrary thresholds. So the USOPC has, in essence, ignored both the science and the IOC's guidance. And this is going to have ripple effects. Not only do we need to talk about the ripple effects, but I also think it's important to state that this moment and this conversation isn't just about policy. Ultimately, it's about what kind of sports culture we're building and who we're allowing to make those decisions, like Donald Trump, about that culture.
Dr. Anna Baith, appreciate your insight as always. And for those who weren't aware of the research, encourage you all. We'll link out to them, but to just take a look at them. And we appreciate everyone for their shared commitment to making sport a more inclusive and equitable space. So Dr. Baith, thank you again.
Thank you, Taylor.